I'm Andrew Patterson from interest.co.nz and welcome to another in our business success story. With me today, Janene Draper, co-founder of Farro's. Hi Janene.
Hi Andrew, nice to meet you.
Janene, tell us a little bit about Farro's, and you established it in 2006. Where did you see the gap in the market?
We'd lived in Wellington for 3 years, and down in Wellington you had more Wilson Fresh, and there was really nothing like it in Auckland, that you had all the producers under one roof. In Auckland you'd come here and you had to go over to one side of town for bread, another place for meat, and we really wanted to get everything under the one roof, so the idea was really born from there.
And of course we have seen this growth in the artisan suppliers. We've spoken to a few of them in this series. How significant has that played in actually making this concept possible?
That has been critical for us. As a company, we really want to champion New Zealand artisan suppliers. So many of them can't get into the supermarkets, they're just starting their business, and we're a really good stepping stone for them to do that. And that's what we feel is fantastic about New Zealand. There's so many wonderful producers, and at the moment they can't get their wares out to lots and lots of people. And our philosophy is, if it's being made well in New Zealand, we'll stock it over an overseas product.
What about in the competitive space? Because when people do their shopping, they generally want to get that done as quickly as possible. And do you target yourself to be close to the supermarkets in the idea that you actually shop at both when they do the shopping experience, or do you think that they'll do it all here?
No, we don't target it being near a supermarket at all. The hardest thing is finding the right sites for our business. Most of our clients that shop with us, they tend to do their regular shops with us, and then they'll do the big shops at somewhere like Pack and Save or Countdown or something, because we don't stock everything. We only stock 40% of the basket. But what people do when they start to shop with us, they realise that we are really good value, that our produce and our meat are better priced than the supermarket even, and the quality is right there and up there. So they do start to change their pattern in the way that they shop.
And that's interesting, because the external perception would be that you'd be a little bit more expensive, that you're at the premium end of the market, therefore everything has got a slightly more expensive price label on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem is when they come in, they look at the store and they think, wow, this looks expensive. But when they start shopping here regularly, they realise that it's not. The thing is that we do have a lot more premium products, so there is that temptation to add a little bit more to your basket. So they do come out having just added something. They've met a supplier in store, they've learnt the story about the food, and they've gone there and added that to their basket.
How do you find you actually get them into the store? Because obviously you don't have the marketing budgets to compete against the supermarkets. What's the incentive to actually come and shop at a place like Farro's?
Most of it's been word of mouth for us. We've done something recently that we asked people why they came in, and such told them. So our business has grown from word of mouth. It's been a huge buy-in for us.
Do social media play much of a part in what you do?
Yes, but it's only been a recent thing for us. And again, a lot of our clients are probably 40 plus, and social media is a new sort of thing for them as well. So again, it is probably the word of mouth that really does grow our business.
The other aspect of the shopping experience here is it's very interactive. You have product demonstrations, you have point of sale tastings and those sort of things. So was that a deliberate strategy to try and make the shopping experience a little bit more engaging than simply walking up and down aisles?
Oh, absolutely. My analogy for that is if you take a bit of cheese and you just chomp into a bit of cheese, a cheddar cheese, you've just got nothing that you even think that what you've eaten, you've just devoured it. But if you come in and you speak to someone who's maybe one of our goat's cheese producers and you learn that there's 40 goats on that farm, you only need to have a slither of that to really enjoy it, and you've got a story that you can take home to the friends and family at the table. And for us, as food is all about sharing, and it goes back to the dinner table, and if you've got something that you can share at the dinner table and experience, then you actually enjoy that whole experience that much more.
In your research, were you able to define such a thing as a typical Farro's customer?
Yeah, there's a certain socioeconomic group they tend to come from. They tend to be tertiary educated as well. They care about what they're eating, they want to know the story behind the food.
And therefore the healthy food message is also something you can play off quite well as well too.
Absolutely, and we tend to look at products too that have got less additives in them. We only stock free range eggs, we only stock free range chickens. So we're actually taking that own, we want to lead without that way as well.
And a high percentage of your stock is New Zealand made as well.
Yep, and it's right through to origin for us now. We're about to have a whole new tagging system that goes up, so when you go up to a shelf you'll know exactly what region of New Zealand it's come from, so you can choose that over an overseas product.
How is the face of retail changing that you've observed from your time, obviously establishing this business and looking around? How are we seeing these trends change?
People are definitely more interested in what they're eating. They want to know what they're eating, where it's come from. People are interested in sustainability, and they're just caring about what they're eating a lot more. I think they'd rather have less of something delicious rather than more of, just rubbish.
Currently, you've got just the 3 stores in Auckland. I wondered whether or not the global financial crisis, the recession, might have actually put paid to some of your original expansion plans.
Well, we never had an expansion plan. We just opened the first store. My husband and I didn't have a food background. We really had no idea what we were doing. I had a passion for food. He had a business background. The recession probably was quite good for us in the sense that a lot of people weren't eating out so much. So when it came to the weekends for them, they wanted to just treat themselves a little, and they'd come and think we're going to cook a really nice dinner on Saturday night. And it was really interesting. Our business originally grew from being really busy on the weekends and quieter on the weekdays, but that's just sort of moved forward the whole time. So what we used to do on a Saturday, we now easily do on a Monday, and it's just snowballed from there. We've had 65% growth every year since we've opened, so it's been a wonderful growth through this time of recession, I suppose.
So what have you learnt along the way that perhaps you might have thought it might have been useful to have known right from the start?
Oh, honestly, we would never go back and redo it. The first 2 years were so hard. We were getting people coming in, we didn't have enough stock on the shelves, or we were getting more and more stock, we were needing more staff. So we were needing more money and infrastructure the whole time, and it came to the point that the banks were just saying no, and we hadn't quite got over that critical threshold. But once we actually climbed and got to the critical threshold, we were away. So, but right down to it, when a supermarket opens, they just plug in a point of sale system. We've got lots of little artisan suppliers that don't even have a barcode. We set up a whole HACCP plan, or health and safety, a food-related system, right from the word go, because we knew it would be too hard to put in later. It was hours and hours and hours and with 3 teenage boys. That's crazy stuff.
Might have been a few nights of lost sleep in there as well.
Oh, totally.
Do you get situations where some of these suppliers get a bit proactive and come and talk to you early when they're developing these products, or do you tend to find that they suddenly find, or you've both got problems because they haven't talked to you prior to actually getting things ready? Yeah,
we often get people that have got an idea and they'll bring the product in just a simple jar or in a plastic bag or something, so this is what we were developing, do you think there's a place for it in the market? And we will help them with that. And that's actually quite good for them, and it's good for us to see what they're coming up with. Sometimes people can overpackage products. We can talk to them about the ingredient list that they're looking at putting into it, what do the E's mean and all the different numbers mean, because we don't want those in the product. So we do develop products together, and particularly with people that we've already got a relationship with, they start to want to have another product coming on board. They'll say, hey, what do you think of this? I've got this great idea. And I suppose we're at the stage now too, have we got shelf space for different things as well? So every product that comes in to be sampled, we've got to think, well, is it better than something else on the shelf? Have we got room for it? But as a company, we can react really quickly. When something's amazing, we can have it on the shelf within 2 days. Yeah.
It must amaze you, and as we've seen in the series, the number of these little businesses that are starting off, making a little, just peeling off a slice of that market and saying, oh, I'm going to produce that from home, or I'm going to set up a little business around that. What do you think is driving that?
I think a lot of people that started have looked for a lifestyle change, and they've decided that they don't want to stay in the city anymore. I was just down at the Hawke's Bay Farmers Market on the weekend, and I think there were about 40 suppliers there on the day, and over 23 of them we had in store. So it was really exciting to go around and see. It was caught up to 2 other people that are just starting and how they're putting their products into place. And it is usually a lifestyle change for most people.
Would you think of expanding to other parts of New Zealand?
Not at this stage. We've got a few more lined up in Auckland we'd like to do first. Keep it close to home, where we've got good control on it. We want to keep it as a family business.
And any other expansion plans to diversify into other products or anything, or do you think you've pretty well got the formula about right?
Well, we're always interested in other products that are coming by, but we don't really want to be doing them under our own label so much. We really want to champion the New Zealand supplier, tell their story.
Obviously, you operate in a challenging space. It's competitive, and you've got the issue of margins. Of course, these supermarkets have a much greater bulk buying power, which you don't have. How does that impact on your margins for a business like this?
We tend to work on as low margins as we can to pass on. What we find is we don't want the New Zealand supplier to be outpriced in the market, because there's so many importations that are coming in that are relatively cheap. So we try and work on the lowest margin that we can. What we find more with suppliers is they get really excited that they can get into the supermarket, and they think they've made it when they've got into the supermarket. But what they actually find is, we'll say, Countdown's latest advertising is we have 100 new products into store every week. The other side of that is there's 100 falling off the back end. So for our suppliers to stay in the supermarket, that's the hardest thing for them. It's all about volume being moved on the shelf. So it's quite a different sort of format to what we do with our formats here.
A lot of your staff are young and clearly very enthusiastic about working here. What sort of backgrounds do they come from?
First of all, they've got to have a passion about food to even be able to get a job. A lot of them have chef backgrounds. I've worked in the hospitality industry, and I think one of the first ads we did like hospitality, but not the hours, because a lot of them have been working in hospitality, might even have a young family, but they've got to the stage they don't want to work nights all the time.
So they bring a real practical experience to the role, as well as simply obviously being able to work in the shop front itself.
Oh, absolutely, and they can add a lot of food knowledge. But we do have really good systems in place now where there's training going on all the time for the staff to increase their own knowledge. Suppliers come in and teach them about their products and give them the knowledge and the background that they can then pass on to the customer.
And just finally, Janene, what's the next big thing for Farro's?
Oh, another store. But we don't want to do more than one a year. We want to grow sensibly and strongly. We want to keep putting our money back into the business. So yeah, we're working on our next store at the moment.
And the boys planning on joining you in the business eventually?
Not at this stage.
Well, Janene, certainly the retail space is still serving you well, obviously, and another store on the way. When do you think that might be opening?
I would be looking at the next one for next year. So one a year is plenty for us.